When you think of a language and what you need to do to learn a language, the first thing that comes to your mind is probably learning foreign words, words you don't understand. And unfortunately, that can be one of the most difficult things when it comes to language learning because it's severely overcomplicated on the internet and it's just made into a mess, and it doesn't have to be that way. So in this video, I'm basically going to explain how it's really simple to learn words, to crush a language. And if you stick around to the end, I'll give you a bonus tip on learning words faster. Sorry about the mic, by the way, guys. My normal mic is not working properly, so I'm using another one, which is not very good, but I will get a way better one, an expensive one, in a few days. So we'll just have to grin and bear it for now. But yeah, hit the subscribe button and let's go. So what is the problem, first of all? And as always, the problem is actually a symptom of the real problem. But here is probably the reality for you right now. So here's you. Here is, I should move myself over here. Here is the goal to learn Japanese, or any language, for example. It doesn't matter. So you have this goal, and to achieve this goal, you're basically investing time into tasks with an ROI. ROI just means return on investment. So obviously, if you want to learn a language, you're not going to go running, for example. You're going to do things that actually help you become better in the language. Like it could be flashcards, it could be listening to music in the language, it could be watching interviews in that language, it could be anything like that. That's what you're doing, and you're doing this to acquire words and become better in the language. The problem, or the pain point right here, is this little X here, the thing that's blocking you from getting any better at the language, which is your time investment isn't paying off because you're not acquiring words. And what that is resulting in is basically frustration and unfulfillment, because you're not learning words. Either you're not really remembering any words, or you're just not making progress fast enough. It's frustrating. Overall, you feel unfulfilled. So how do we actually solve this problem and help you learn words so that you can crush the language? Because as I said at the start, it's actually not too difficult. Here is what the real problem is, and this is important to note. So in this picture, what you're doing, I've basically simplified the above picture. Before we're looking at, you need to do this, X ROI tasks to learn a language. Here is me simplifying it. There's one key thing you need to do to learn words. And if you're not doing this, you won't learn any words. And the key task is locking words into your long-term memory. And I understand that's not actually a task. It's not like flashcards, but I'm going to explain how to do this. And the reason this is the key thing, that no matter what you have, this is kind of like the master task, or the master task is a good way of putting it, because no matter what task you choose to do, it needs to do this within it. Otherwise, you're not actually going to make any progress. So whatever, tasks you're investing your time into to learn the language and acquire words, be it flashcards, listening to songs, watching interviews, etc. All of these things need to be helping you lock words into your long-term memory. Otherwise, you're not actually going to learn any words. And as soon as you start doing this, you will learn words, and much faster. And don't worry, because I'm going to explain how to do this on the next slide. But the way you lock things into your long-term memory is effectively to teach your brain that the new information that you're encountering, that you've never seen before, because remember, you obviously don't speak this language. You need to teach your brain that this new information is important, and that's what I'm going to explain now. So, to learn a language, very simple. We need to lock new information into our long-term memory, or we'll forget it. This is basically the process of putting things into your long-term memory. So you start with unknown information. That's kind of like when you're reading, for example, you read words that you have no idea what they mean. So maybe you have no idea what the word lunati in Italian, this microphone better be working. If I record this whole video and I can't hear anything, I'm going to be angry. But yeah, lunedì in Italian means Monday. For example, you read that and you don't know what it means, so you translate it and you understand that, okay, lunedì means Monday. That's your understanding stage. You understand what the word means by, translating it into your native language. And then it's in your short-term memory. So if I asked you for the next 5, 10, 15 minutes, maybe not that long if you've got a goldfish memory, but for like a short period of time, you'd probably be able to translate the word. And then what happens is, over a period of hours, days, weeks, you slowly forget it because your brain doesn't see the information as important, and it's no longer resting in your short-term memory. The reason this arrow is green is because a lot of people only get to this short-term memory stage. They don't make the jump from short-term memory to long-term memory. And so what they're actually doing when they're learning a language is they're encountering unknown stuff. They're understanding what it means. They're remembering it in their short-term memory, and then it's gone. They don't actually do what's required to lock it into their long-term memory. And that is why you feel so endlessly frustrated, because you're not actually learning, you're not actually remembering things. You're not doing the key language learning part. You're just kind of understanding things and then forgetting it. It's a complete waste of time. It's all the pain without any of the payoff. So what you need to understand to actually cross this bridge is that your brain is designed to only remember important things. And what I mean by remember is like for a long period of time. Your brain only needs to remember important things. And, we could go into why that is. There's a bunch of evolutionary science, etc. But essentially, your ancestors would not have survived if they weren't able to remember important things. And anything your brain doesn't see as important, it basically prunes or it gets rid of so that it can put more effort into the important things, which is going to give you basically a higher chance of survival. So that's a little bit about the brain. But there are basically three ways to teach your brain. There are three main ways to teach your brain information is important: through trauma, similarity, and repetition. Obviously, as we've said before, we're not going to traumatize ourselves to learn a language. I remember I gave like an analogy about traumatizing yourself, and someone commented down below 5:28 or whatever the timestamp was is when the video gets real, and I just thought that was funny. We're not going to traumatize ourselves. Similarity you can't really change, but that's kind of a reason why languages like French and Italian are easier to learn than languages like Mandarin, simply because if you're an English speaker, that is simply because they're more similar to the building blocks you're currently working with. So the main way to lock things into your long-term memory is through repetition. And there is so many good ways to do this and so many bad ways to do this as well, which we're going to talk about right now. So how do we actually teach our brain things that are important so that we can make solid progress in the language, and so that we're not just putting in all of the investment, all of the time, all of the effort, and being frustrated and unfulfilled afterwards? So here's what I want you to do right now. Find a practice reading text that isn't boring as shit. So you're going to have to gauge your level. If you're very new to the language, I could say like A1, B1, but some people don't know what that is, or they use a different system. It doesn't matter. If you're new to the language, find a text that's easy. If you've been doing it for a few months, find a slightly more difficult one. If you're advanced at it, find a fairly hard one, but make sure the text that you're reading is one you can understand. So what you can do is you can go onto lingua.com, which I'll link down below if you want to check out after this video. That has a bunch of texts in various languages. You can find a website specific to your language. So if you look up free reading text and then the language you're looking at, you can find a website like that. If you need a hand and you're like literally stuck, you have no idea where to find free reading text, comment below and I'll try and give you a hand. Or you can jump in our Discord and someone else will help you as well, or me, if you want to click the link in the description below. But yeah, what you want to do is find a website with free reading text, like for example, free practice reading text Japanese. Save the website and basically find like a free practice paragraph for reading. And by the way, this can be with reading, listening, anything. I'm just going to teach you to do this with reading. And find basically the text that is not too difficult. So there's going to be plenty of words in it you don't know, but try and find one where you can get the rough gist of what's going on. And ideally it's not like too long, like pages, like maybe a paragraph or two. And then what I want you to do is read the text as best as you can, then go back through and make a list of 10 to 20 words in your language learning notebook. Write these down that you don't understand, and then either translate them with Google Translate or with the parallel text. Then what I want you to do is go to Study Stack. Some people use Anki. I've heard a lot of the people I've talked to that use Anki or Anki to study have said it can be frustrating. I actually don't know for sure, but I use Study Stack and it's extremely efficient. You can use it on your phone and your laptop in the same account. So I'll link that in the description as well. It's completely free. They're not paying me anything. I don't even have 1,000 subscribers at time of recording. So nobody's paying me to say stuff that isn't true. Don't worry. And then what I want you to do is basically super quickly turn them into flashcards. And then basically what you're going to do is every day for maybe a week, you're going to do that deck of flashcards twice. You're going to reread the practice paragraph and then do them twice more. And if after a week you still don't understand the words, I'm convinced there might be something wrong with your brain, because there is physically no way after doing that you couldn't learn those words. Even if you weren't paying attention, you'd still probably learn them. And the reason is because what you're doing is teaching your brain that this information is important. You're exposing yourself to it twice. Then you're actually putting it into practice by reading the text, and then you're re-exposing yourself to it. So what you're doing is you're teaching your brain through various mediums, and we'll talk about various mediums later, but you're teaching your brain through various different ways that this information is important. And that means your brain goes, oh shit, we actually need to learn this stuff. Your brain doesn't really know the difference between survival or anything like that unless your actual bodily functions are compromised. So as soon as you do something like that, your brain kind of understands that this is important and it starts building those neural connections. So what I want you to focus on from now on is forget learning words, forget, trying to memorize words in a language. What you're trying to do is teach your brain that these words are important. That's what you're doing. You're the teacher and your brain is the student. You're basically teaching yourself that these new words, this new information that you've never seen before and never needed before is important. And the problem a lot of people run into is what they're actually doing is They expose themselves to a little bit of new content, new ideas, but they still live that, like, they don't use that language most of the day. They're using English, and they maybe study only a few times a week. And what happens is your brain doesn't care. It's like, this isn't important at all. What you need to do is flip the script and teach your brain that this stuff is important. So yeah, that's what I want you guys to do. And as a bonus, I will say, by the way, if you are having difficulty with this, if you're feeling frustrated, unfulfilled, anything like that, I guarantee you the Language Learning Accelerator, which I've linked below, can solve any of your problems with language learning. I jump on call with all of my students. I've never had someone, be unfulfilled with the teaching, and all I've noticed is basically constant progress. So if you're interested in that, you want to actually learn faster, click the link below and have a look at it. But a bonus tip I will give you is immersion. And it's not what you think, because a lot of people go, oh, immersion, that kind of thing. You have to immerse yourself fully in the language like you're a soldier or something. You don't have to go live in the country with no knowledge. You don't have to refuse to speak English or anything, any silly stuff like that. What I mean by immersion is just trying to put little things into the foreign language. So if you have a habit tracker, or you have goals that you write out on a weekly basis, or days on your phone, like, on your iPhone, you just have the day on the screen, or when you write dates down in a like calendar or anything, you can just do these things in a foreign language. Even if you don't know how, you can say, okay, how do I write Wednesday? How do I write, you can write the 26th of January, for example, but don't write 26/7, because like most languages 26/1 or 1/26. If you're an American, you put month first, which is kind of weird. No offense, but you don't do that, because that's, cheating. Write the actual long form. So if you're going to write, the 26th of, January, you would just write write it with letters. Don't write it with like the two numbers and then th. Like, write the full version. And yeah, you will find that actually does help you, because you are putting little things into the foreign language, and just little things will pay off over time, because you're consistently using some of the same words. It'll be very easy to lock them into your brain. So yeah, hopefully that will help. Good luck, and yeah, subscribe if that is useful. Have a good one.